Why in the world did we close our farm market? That is the question that I have been asked hundreds of times over the last few years. And today I'm going to share with you the entire story. And stick around to the end of the video and find out if we have plans to reopen. Welcome back to Wishwell Farms, everybody. My name is Jason, and this is our storefront of our farm market that I built back in 1999. And we permanently closed it after the 2023 growing season. And I'm sure you're wondering, why would we do that when we're right here on a busy U.S. highway with an established farm market of 24 years? Well, in today's video, it's going to be a little bit of story time. And to find out the answers to this, we need to go way back to the beginning where it all started. So in the mid-90s, I started selling sweet corn out of my folks' garage on a trailer, just to make some extra cash for summer, along with my lawn mowing business and along with farming alongside my mom and dad, milking cows, feeding the calves, raking and baling hay and straw and everything that goes along with running a dairy farm. And then in 1998, I was a graduate of Ohio State University. I had just gotten married. I was 26 years old, young and ambitious and full of energy. And we bought this house here and we sold sweet corn off of a flatbed wagon right here in this garage in 1998. And then in 1999, we tore into this barn here and redid everything on the inside and on the outside to make it look presentable as a farm market to sell sweet corn and, at that time, just green beans and tomatoes. We started growing more and more items throughout the years, but when it all started back in 1999 in this building here, it was just those three crops. I know many of you would love to see the inside of our market, so I want to show you now. Never before seen footage from our farm. I gotta warn you, it's a dirty, cluttered up mess. This room serves as a catch-all and a storage area for generators and things like that. So this is where I film some of my videos. And this is a homemade table out of rough cut lumber that normally sits right here. And we would display like pints of berries and things like that on it. And in this area is where we sold all our tomatoes on one of those apple bins. We sold all of our jams and jellies and salsas right there. This is our sales desk. We had a cash register here, of course our scales, credit card machine, phone. And as you can see, all the siding around here is barn siding, tongue and groove barn siding. I found a barn that was being torn down and I bought the whole load. And then all the shelving was made with rough cut lumber from a local fella in Marysville, just a half hour from me. And I was able to build all of our display shelves with that rough cut lumber. So we displayed all of our produce all the way around. And this side was strictly for sweet corn. You know, back in the day, we could sell 100 dozen ears of sweet corn in here. You know, we'd pile it way up. And, you know, we've got some of our old antiques on the walls. And a picture of our farm from sometime between 2009 and 2017 because the high tunnel's there. All right, there you have it. Nothing too exciting, very small, but it got the job done. 2001 was a very important year in my farming career. It is not only the year that we started selling out of our new farm market that we had just renovated, but it was also the year that we put out our first 1.5 acres of strawberries, and it was also year number 1 going full-time as a fruit and vegetable farmer. 2001 was also the year we put up our very first greenhouse, but it was not that greenhouse. It was that one right there, but that greenhouse sat right there. We had a severe windstorm in March of 2021 that blew that greenhouse upside down, opened it up like a can of worms. It sat right there and it was full of probably 800 tomato plants, about chest high, with 3 clusters of fruit on each plant, about the size of golf balls. The entire crop was instantly destroyed, and I thought my vegetable career was coming to a quick end. Fortunately, with lots of help from neighbors and friends, parents, and people from our church, we were able to dismantle the entire destroyed structure. I'll throw some pictures up right now so you can see what a mess this was. And I was able to rebuild and salvage 60 feet of that destroyed greenhouse. So it was 148 feet long and set right here. And I was able to make a 60-foot greenhouse out of the remaining parts. And it is now, to this day, our starter house. We call it our transplant house, our seed house. So everything that we raise here on our farm from seeds to go out in our fields is started right there. Boy, that sun is out in full force tonight. It's beautiful. So in about 1996, I started attending my very first farmer's market right here in Bellefontaine, Ohio, my hometown. And the only thing I would take back then was sweet corn. I started out growing less than 1 acre of sweet corn, and then it went to 3 acres, and then it went to 10 acres. And eventually we peaked at about 40 acres of sweet corn. We are currently growing between 20 and 25. So anyway, in 2002, after I had decided to go full-time into fruit and vegetable production, we decided to get out of the dairy business. And that's when my folks sold the dairy cows. And I knew at that point I was all in as a fruit and vegetable farmer. So for the first few years of running our farm market, we were running lots of newspaper ads and the classifieds, print ads. We had a local county classified flyer that went around to all the towns around our county. We would put ads in there. I ran radio spots. I just did anything and everything I could to build my clientele at my farm stand. And I had all kinds of banners and wooden signs that I would put up and down the highway about a half mile from our farm market to bring awareness that we were there, and have nice bright pictures of produce on these signs and banners so people would be more likely to stop in and check out our market. All those banners and signs were a great way to advertise our farm market with nearly 10,000 cars driving by every day. And now I'm finding myself out here in the middle of our vegetable fields. And this field right here I'm walking along now, those of you who have been following me closely know this is where we had our winter squash, our butternut and spaghetti squash. This was our very first field of strawberries. This is where our very first 1.5 acres of strawberries were. Seems like a lifetime ago. Wow, 1999. Boy, has time flown by. So I would say from around 2001 all the way probably until around 2017, our market steadily grew. And I was happy with the growth and how much money we were generating from it. But there were some things happening behind the scenes during this time. So I think a lot of these changes may have started around 2005. That's when I had the opportunity to purchase someone's greenhouse setup that was outfitted with a hydroponic growing system for tomatoes. And well, we'll go up there in a little bit, but you can't really see it from here. We call it our tall greenhouse because it is a 18-foot tall greenhouse with a ridge vent. And it's all automated, run by computers, and outfitted completely with everything you need for growing hydroponic tomatoes. And this was about the time that we were starting to tinker with attending a few more farmers markets. I was having farmers market managers reach out to me, seeing if we would come and attend their farmers market. The early 2000s was a time when farmers markets were exploding in every city and suburb around the state, probably around the nation. And we kind of took advantage of that. I started going to more and more of these markets, and that means I needed more tomatoes. And one greenhouse wasn't cutting it. So in 2005, we put up our second greenhouse. Actually, we had 3 by that time because insurance had paid for a new greenhouse, the one that was destroyed in the windstorm. So we had 3 greenhouses, and eventually we had 4, and then I got into high tunnels. So around 2009, I put up a 1/2 acre high tunnel. I'm gonna throw some pictures up right now so you can see how monstrous this thing was. It was a management nightmare. And I think this was the beginning of me starting to get a little burnt out with fruit and vegetable farming. I had put my heart and soul into raising fruit and vegetables and selling them at farmers markets and building my business. I mean, I put blood, sweat, and tears, everything I had, all through my late 20s, all through my 30s. And by this time, I was just starting to get a little burnout. And, I got the business built to where I wanted it to be. And I was just ready for a little bit of a change. So I'm starting to get a little bit ahead of myself. I think we need to dive in to why and what caused me to ultimately shut down our farm market. So there are a lot of reasons that brought me to this decision. But I would say one of the main ones was the lack of privacy in my life, living here on my farm. Back in college, probably 1996, one of my professors in one of my human resource classes always told me, don't ever live at the location of your business. And he told a lot of stories about why. And it just happened to be that I ended up buying a house where I started my farm business. So there's not much I could really do about it. But looking back in hindsight, I can see that he was right. And I think it would have been much better off if I would have lived elsewhere, even if it was just down the road a quarter mile. Or maybe, live where I live now, but have my farm market down the road in a different location, maybe a quarter mile or half mile away. I will admit that it is convenient having the market right there. I can just run outside the door and be out in my market, like if I was running it and one of the employees was not there to run it. So there are some plus sides to living on location, but I would say there are more downsides. So I feel like we had to raise our kids under a very watchful eye. All my kids are grown and gone now, but we either had to have, we didn't have a fenced in yard at the time. We do now for our dog, but we didn't have a fenced in area. So my wife would have to load up our kids in either the car or the golf cart that we had at the time and run them over to the grandparents' house or down to our farm pond to let them play. They couldn't just run around outside and play as little kids because of 50 to 100 cars driving around our driveway all hours of the day. And when I say all hours, that leads me into the next point. There was always someone stopping by our house, even after hours or before hours. Or if a car broke down, they would always want to pull into our driveway, whether it was engine trouble or a flat tire. It might be after hours, and my wife might be outside doing some yard work or landscaping, and it would never fail. Someone would pull in and ask her, "Are you open?" Even though our sign that says closed is up, and it's 7 o'clock at night. You just, until you've lived through it, you don't understand what I'm talking about. So that was kind of the nail in the coffin after doing that for almost 25 years. We'd had enough. I just wasn't willing to spend the rest of my life living where I live with cars constantly driving through my driveway. My wife and I were ready for some privacy. So I would say that is the number one reason, but there still are many more reasons I want to explain. So in 2017, we decided to sell the high tunnel and put up a traditional greenhouse in its place. And I would say around that time was when we were peaking farmers market attendance. We were attending up to 14 farmers markets every week, with half of those being on Saturday alone. So, to say I was stretched thin is an understatement, but for 10 years prior to that, I had slowly been building the farmers market business and putting more time and energy into that instead of our on-farm market. And I think part of the reason is that I enjoyed farmers markets more. I liked the fast money. I didn't like having normal business hours being open from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. or whatever hours we had, and waiting for people to come to me, wondering if they're going to turn off of the highway and come and buy produce from me. So the farmers market model worked really well for me. I was able to have a good living, start building a retirement fund, put my 3 kids through private Christian school, pay off all my debts. So farmers markets have been really good to us. Not that the farm market, on-farm market wasn't, it's just that that's where I kind of built our farming model around farmers markets. And I was slowly letting the on-farm market be a priority in everything that I did, all of my planning. It all went towards farmers markets. Now, I know a lot of you are going to ask the question, but isn't it so much easier to just open and sell at your farm stand versus doing all those farmers markets? You know, you got to own box trucks, you got to maintain them, you got to fuel them up, you got to load them, you got to unload them, you got to hire all these kids, high school and college kids and adults to run all these farmers markets. Got to have money boxes, credit card machines. I mean, the list goes on and on. Tents, tables, all the goodies it takes to run a farmers market. It's a lot, but I've done it for so long, it's like second nature to me. And I got it down to a science. I got it dialed in, and it works for us. And the on-farm market was just getting to be a drag for me. I didn't like opening it and closing it every day, training new people to run it, how to run a credit card machines, how to answer the phones properly, answering all the frequently asked questions. My mind's just, all the things are flooding back into my mind that I didn't like about running an on-farm market. I was also always needing to show the employees which produce in the cooler was for the home market, where the good stuff is, where the bad stuff is, where's the produce that's for the farmers markets that you can't use because I need it for farmers markets. So it just got to be a management nightmare for me. And at about this same time, I started seeing the writing on the wall that I was not going to have any children come back to the farm. Now, I know it's still early. I know there's a chance that one of them may come back. My oldest is 24. He is a nurse. My 22-year-old son is a full-time YouTuber, doing way better than I ever did on the farm, so why would he need to come back? But you know, never know. That may change in the future. And my daughter is a sophomore in college as an education major. So the oldest and the youngest both have interest in the farm. They still help on the farm, and maybe one of them will marry somebody in the future that is interested in working on the farm or running the farm. So I still have hope that my baby that I built from the ground up is not going to die with me. So that is my hope. But eliminating the on-farm market was one way for me to not be stretched so thin and to start slowing down a little bit. With having no debt and wanting to enjoy my life off the farm a little bit more now that I've been doing this for over 25 years, it was just the right time to close down that market. One more quick thing. Not only were the customers driving me crazy coming through my home, I got neighbors that just drive over here randomly, right in the middle of me trying to film. What the heck? The one time I decided to come out and film a video while walking around outdoors on this beautiful Sunday evening, someone happens to drive over here with a noisy truck. So I guess he's looking at dead cottonwood trees over there he wants to cut down. So anyways, where was I? So another reason that we closed down our farm market was to enjoy October more. For 24 years, we grew and sell pumpkins. And that requires you to be open during the month of October, right? Because that's pumpkin season. So by closing down our home market after the 2023 pumpkin season, it freed up our Octobers to enjoy one of our favorite things, which is RV camping during the leaf color change. And we would travel to different places like North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan. We've been all over. And to enjoy one of my favorite pastimes, which is backpacking. I'm a big backpacker. I do long distance section hikes. I've put in thousands and thousands of miles over the last 9 years that I've been in the backpacking, and October is a great month of the year to backpack. And I've missed out on a lot of summertime activities over the last 25 years that a lot of people get to enjoy because I chose the life of a fruit and vegetable farmer, and I gotta be here every day throughout the entire spring through fall. So having that October time freed up was really nice. And my wife and I both agree that closing it down was the right decision because of how much we enjoy being away from the farm, taking a break during the month of October before the snow starts flying. Well, I made it back up here to the farm market and the sun has went down and this day is getting ready to end quickly. So we're gonna wrap this thing up here soon. Is there a chance that I would ever open this market back up again? Yes. I'm not going to say never, because there is a chance. And I think it would probably take one of my kids coming back to manage running that farm market, or one of my dedicated employees that is interested in taking over the management of running our on-farm market, and I would consider opening it back up. Another scenario would be is if everything hit the fan and for some reason I wasn't able to attend farmers markets anymore. Maybe farmers markets disappeared, or I got kicked out, or I wasn't able to get diesel fuel for my trucks to haul produce to the farmers markets. Then, of course, I would open up our farm market to make ends meet. It's starting to get a little chilly out here, so we're going to wrap this up in the greenhouse. It's hard to believe that we'll be in here planting the 2026 tomato crop in less than 3 months. It always seems to be about 10 degrees warmer inside the greenhouse, even without running the heat, so it feels pretty good in here. So our farm market has been good to us for the past 24 years. It has provided a lot for my wife and I to raise our family, build a retirement, and pay off our debts. So I don't have any complaints there, but I would say that my quality of life has improved as well as my wife's quality of life, and that means a lot. So what do you guys think? Should we remain closed, or should I consider reopening? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. This is where we're going to wrap this video up today, folks. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all again next time down on the farm.